scientists have long struggled to understand. After erecting giant stone statues, some standing 3 to 20 meters tall, where did the people of Easter Island go? It seemed the final mystery of Easter Island was on the verge of being solved. And yet, the more they researched, the more the evidence baffled scientists, leaving them to wonder what the truth really was. In fact, a local even confessed to researchers that their ancestors would punish anyone who revealed the secret meaning of these carvings to outsiders. So, what did they ultimately find on this treeless island? Easter Island, known to its inhabitants as Rapa Nui, is a small island in the Pacific Ocean that has haunted scientists for centuries. Some long-vanished population carved and erected nearly 1,000 giant stone statues and then disappeared. The work appears to have stopped abruptly as many of the monuments were left half-finished. Today, a small indigenous population still lives there, but they know nothing of the fate of their ancestors. That an advanced civilization once existed on Easter Island is a fact. The proof lies in the giant stone statues erected all across the island. According to most researchers, the tribes of Earth surely lacked the physical strength and intellectual capacity to sculpt and erect stone statues weighing tens of tons, let alone arrange them with such scientific and aesthetic precision across the island. Swiss author and explorer Erich von Däniken stated, "Such complex work could only have been carried out by extraterrestrials. It's no coincidence that the eyes of all the statues gaze toward the sky." According to him, aliens made an emergency landing on the island due to a technical malfunction with their ship. While making repairs, they passed the time by carving busts in their own image. This would also explain why the faces of the statues are so elongated, not corresponding to human facial proportions. After repairing their ship, the spacefaring visitors left in a hurry, leaving many statues unfinished. If you find that hypothesis to be a bit too fantastical, then perhaps the work The Secret Doctrine by philosopher and theosophist Helena Blavatsky offers a theory that is no less mysterious. She proposed that Easter Island is a remnant of Lemuria, a legendary land. Among the inhabitants of the island were also survivors from the sunken continent of Atlantis. As far as we know, both of these races were said to be enormous, possibly standing from 7 to 18 meters tall. Therefore, for them, crafting and installing 10-meter-tall statues would have been no difficult feat. But then, the Great Flood occurred, just as the local legends tell. Thunder suddenly erupted from the sky and from within the earth, and the sea surged furiously, causing the island to sink rapidly into the ocean. However, according to Blavatsky, several centuries later this piece of land rose again from the seabed. At that time, many statues remained in nearly their original positions, but a few had toppled over during this process of sinking and resurfacing. The third hypothesis, which is endorsed by the majority of scientists, is that it was the fault of the indigenous people themselves who turned a corner of paradise into a wasteland. Biogeographer Jared Diamond once stated on an American television channel, "The population on Easter Island grew and they began to cut down trees faster than the forests could regenerate. Trees were cut down for fuel, building materials. Many forests were cleared to make way for agriculture. As a result, shortages of food and water became extremely dire. The people there no longer had forests to retain moisture. Droughts began to occur, and groundwater and streams dried up. The land gradually lost its fertility, reducing agricultural yields. In these compounding difficult circumstances, the natives began to craft and erect stone statues to plead with the gods, but they received no help. Driven to desperation, the people were forced to resort to cannibalism in the hope of survival, causing a highly developed civilization here to completely collapse. However, some researchers who lean towards mystical science believe that, to this day, the island's indigenous inhabitants steadfastly conceal the ancient knowledge of their ancestors. To date, scientists have been unable to decipher the signs carved onto smooth wooden tablets, or the drawings depicting winged humans, strange bipedal creatures, bizarre animals, or incomprehensible spirals. In the end, all the fascinating hypotheses seem to lead to a dead end, giving way to a purely scientific thesis. This is the result of the work of two archaeologists, Carl Lipo of the University of California and Terry Hunt of the University of Hawaii. who have demonstrated that an advanced civilization never existed on Easter Island, although the statues were indeed crafted by the natives themselves. The purpose of crafting and erecting these strange statues was to intimidate enemies from the sea. They were carved from porous stone, formed from volcanic ash that was melted by the heat of lava flows and then solidified like rock upon cooling. The statues were crafted near the crater of the Rano Raraku volcano on the island and were transported to coastal areas with the help of planks, ropes, levers, and wooden rollers. Various experiments have proven that this method is feasible. Indeed, it would only take 12 people with the aforementioned tools to transport and erect a 20-ton stone statue in just 18 days. Furthermore, scientists have determined that the statue's bases were not simply buried shallowly in the ground. Instead, beneath each statue is a thick stone slab that serves as a pedestal. Only they were placed at the bottom of a deep pit. Dr. Carl Lipo asserts, the indigenous people vanished abruptly after the arrival of the Dutch starting in 1722. They spread a host of incurable diseases such as venereal disease, dysentery, leprosy, tuberculosis, cholera, smallpox, and so on across the island, causing nearly all the inhabitants to fall ill and die. Thus, according to him, no environmental catastrophe ever occurred on Easter Island, contrary to the long-held misconception. He also suggests that the island may have once had coconut forests, but they were destroyed not by humans, but by hordes of rats that arrived from Europe on the Dutch colonial ships. At that time, the island had no natural predators of rats, so they multiplied rapidly. They had a voracious appetite for coconuts, so not a single coconut could sprout. Consequently, the island's coconut forests gradually withered away, and life on Easter Island thus came to an end. Although every hypothesis presented has its own evidence and sound reasoning, they still leave us with no shortage of doubts. You can't be certain that this was the work of the giants of Lemuria or Atlantis, or even extraterrestrials, because no one can even confirm their actual existence. So what about the other theories? Is there other evidence that makes one seem more plausible than the rest? Don't hesitate to share your thoughts with us in the comments below. For now, goodbye, and we wish you all a warm day with your families.